The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. If you enjoy our work, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow the links in the description. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Greetings and salutations, listeners. I, Eric J. Chucci, joined as always by my friend who knows my secret identity, the boy.
Hey, you just so we're clear, you did give them your full name on the internet just now, so I think
That's right.
We're all your friend who knows your secret identity.
Or are you? Thank you for playing along with that. It makes me feel better about myself. This week we are finally talking about Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, well, essentially what happened is everyone in Tuna's household wanted to see it, but you know how life happens? That happened.
Oh, yeah.
So, we didn't get to see it until this weekend, and, well, I feel like the universe wanted us to go to this specific showing. Because boy, howdy did we walk out with a story, listener, and
So
you'll get that story.
How long has this film been out as of our recording this?
3 weeks, I think, at least minimum.
I believe 2 or 3 weeks. Let me check with my handy-dandy internet here.
I'll vamp a little while you do that. So, I actually had done, there's not a lot of spoilers available for this, because, Spider-Man wins, lol. I mean, fucking, yeah, of course he does. But, what spoilers there are, I managed to avoid really handily. I had not seen much about this, and it had been out for a little while. I still really, really, really wanted to see it, because, as I have discussed many times on this podcast, I am completely in the bag for movies like this. And so going into it, I was real psyched. I made a point, I made it one of my main priorities this weekend to go see Spider-Man Homecoming.
It had been a month, by the way.
Oh, holy shit. So once we get in there, should we start the story now, or do you want to do the spoiler-free review first?
Yeah, let's real quick. I mean, it was good.
It was that's a bit of an understatement. It was really fucking good.
Yeah, I did a whole bit with the boy after we got out where I pretended it was bad. He knew I was pretending. But then I told him it was good and I didn't know what to say about it because I didn't want to gush. Mostly because I wanted to save it all for the podcast. I don't know. What's the most trite statement I could think of? This was the movie that made me believe in Spider-Man again?
Yeah, I think that's about it. I think that's as trite as you could go, so long as it still remains true.
And if I may, wax a little poetic here, when I was growing up, my favorite superheroes were Batman and Spider-Man, and when I met the boy, I kind of let go of Batman a little bit, just because
he's mine.
I could never compete. I would never be strong enough a fan next to his sunlight. But, Spider-Man had his own set of problems. I kind of lost interest in Spider-Man after the whole One More Day scenario. And then the movies. The original trilogy was okay. I like the first two just fine. They don't hold up that well.
I think the second one is honestly a little overrated. It was good. Don't get me wrong. There are some bits in it which are amazing. The train sequence comes to mind.
I think the second one is just the first one done better. And more serious, which I think is what fans wanted.
We'll meet again, Spider-Man!
Which I like.
Willem Dafoe is gold.
Yeah, fuck, whatever.
Anyone who dislikes that Goblin performance has no fun left in their soul. That was gold.
But, I believe it also had this weird, sub-story that they never bothered paying much attention to, where he couldn't use his powers sometimes. It was an issue, twice.
It was like a confidence issue, and he sort of just got over it.
And, yeah, but it wasn't even directly pointed out by the film.
No, it was just, like I said, I think the movie's a little overrated.
Yeah.
It's not as good, it's not the perfect comic book movie it gets hailed as so much. It's certainly not the perfect Spider-Man movie.
No. But yeah, so I've putted around for years of my life, a decade or more, not really knowing who my favorite hero is. I kind of settle on Spawn.
Oh yeah, we never really watched The Amazing Spider-Mans.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's what I was getting to. Looking at them made me upset.
And this is me, in the bag for comic book movies. The Amazing Spider-Man series stands with I think Batman and the Infinite Sadness is one of the only comic book movies, some of the only comic book movies I've never seen and don't care to. I've seen some clips on YouTube that are okay.
There's some old school and some indie stuff that, like, because I don't think we've seen. What was the one they did recently with the octopus? It was Samuel L. Jackson.
I'm mostly talking about Big Two.
But yeah,
here.
the Big Two, we don't really miss much, but yeah.
The Spirit, by the way.
The Spirit, thank you. My brain kept going The Shadow, and I'm like, that's not who that is. I just remembered
you could very well be forgiven for not knowing the difference.
the Samuel L. Jackson thing, because every trailer was like, yeah, I got to eat everything. I got 8 dicks, too. It was great. He didn't say that, we did. Anyway, spoiler alert, he didn't have 8 dicks. I don't know, maybe. I didn't see the movie. Maybe that was the twist. Maybe he just dropped trow, and the Spirit was like, put him away.
Put him away. Nobody needs that. You called my bluff. You said, do you have 8 of everything? You shouldn't have asked if you didn't want to know, motherfucker.
You want me to pan up to the nipples? I'll pan up to the nipples.
No, stop. All right, just take the arms or drugs or whatever it is you're doing. Go. I give up.
But yeah, we didn't. That and then Sony being a butt about, Marvel Studios, which they're not a butt about anymore. And what do you know? They made a really good Spider-Man movie, and it's not step for step, shot for shot, panel for panel the original issue of Spider-Man by any stretch of the imagination.
Please note, that's a compliment.
Oh, sure. Like, get over yourselves, nerds. This here on the Two Nerds podcast. Get the fuck over yourselves, nerds. It's an adaptation. It doesn't need to be 100% faithful to the original.
There is something to be said for picky, bitchy, entitled nerds who are hard to please. They're the people who made the material good in the first place.
Sure, certainly. And, I think there needs to be a standard of quality. See our opinions on the 2 Spider-Man movies previous.
And Batman and the Infinite Sadness.
But
we're nerds too.
Yeah.
Just trying to prevent us from delving too far down the pot kettle avenue.
Yeah, certainly. I believe there is a margin of success, and it's lower than a lot of people give it credit for, and it's higher than a lot of studio execs need to think will pass. But this was really good amalgamation of everything Spider-Man.
It also really, it took advantage of its tools. It exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so it exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That is the drive behind much of the motivation for both Peter and the villain of the piece, who is Michael Keaton, taking an amazing turn as his new thing, bird-themed stuff, in weird, returns to form, but, how do I say this? It's the motivation behind the villain's stuff. It's the motivation behind a lot of Peter's work. And it uses tools that you only have because you're in a shared universe. From having Tony Stark act as Peter's pseudo-mentor / authority figure throughout the movie, all the way down to having fucking amazing little corny videos that his high school plays of Captain America, which were some of the best comedy in the whole movie.
Yeah, it was good stuff. So spoiler-free, see it. You don't need to see it in the theaters. I mean, we're a month out of box office anyway, so who gives a shit?
See it in the theater just because there's some cool set pieces.
Yeah,
but if cool set pieces aren't your bag, this movie's emotional and character story is way strong enough to hold up. I'd say seeing it when it hits Netflix will be fine.
I'd shut off the lights, pay attention to it. I don't know. I don't think there was anything that needed the big screen. There was some shit that if we had been watching it in 3D, I would have shit myself.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm sad that I can't really go see many 3D movies because they just give me a fucking migraine.
I don't care.
I walk out of every 3D movie I ever go into with a blistering migraine. It sucks.
So that's 10 minutes of the podcast on the non-spoiler version. How about that? We did pretty good this time.
Well, just because The spoiler version isn't going to be much different. It would just be us going point by point through what happens in the movie.
There are some more details I'd like to bring up that kind of involve spoilers. But yes, let's lay the groundwork.
I think it's important we go for the story.
So, we are a month out, listener. And we are going into spoiler territory here. We are a month out from this film's release. And yeah, we went to see this on a Saturday night at, 7 o'clock?
Yeah.
But still, that's a month out, competing with some decent stuff.
Yeah, including a really hyped, nerd adaptation, The Dark Tower movie, which came out literally this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That theater was wall to wall.
Oh, yeah.
We ended up in I was in the second row, you were in the first. We weren't even in the same seats.
Well, we started in the same seats.
Oh, I almost got for
segue. Yeah, it's a nice little segue. Thank you. I'll drive away on it. And there was a family behind us. And they were chatting through the previews, which I don't give a shit. There was only one preview there I hadn't seen, and that was Black Panther, and that looks good.
All right, so I don't much mind chatting through the previews in general.
No.
But there is a flavor of chatting through the previews.
I heard the guy do it, and I'm like, oh boy, so pissed off.
That, shall we say, presages bad behavior through the movie. And that's when you are reading the stuff that's on the screen in text form.
Oh, I thought this was a different scenario.
No, what were you talking about?
I was talking about the post-trailer loudly announcing your summation of the film. That looks good.
Thanks! Actually, that was one of the few lines, there were 2 times in this story when I actually said something. And, because I'm not you, I can do it in a way that sounds like Bance and not, I will rip out your eyes.
Well, because that's how I feel in my soul, and my soul comes out through my mouth.
I can make it sound like Bance. I can make it sound friendlier than it is.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it as well is your natural tone is, nerd voice, whereas, I'm putting it on a little bit for the podcast here so you guys can hear me. I speak in a very deep, rumbling bass.
So, but there's a type of talking, and it's a lot of little things. Notably, it is when there's text on the screen and you read it out loudly enough for everyone to hear, and some other minor things which I know presage bad behavior through the movie. So I was already annoyed because I knew what was coming.
Oh, and I was annoyed, but it was like, you know what, White, calm down.
Because
you just woke up, you want to have a good time, you want to enjoy this movie. We specifically went today instead of tomorrow or instead of another day so that we would make sure you enjoyed the film.
And we snark through previews too. So sure.
Usually a little more quietly, but not everyone has our sense of decorum.
Yeah, so, maybe when the movie starts, they'll stop.
And, I even gave them a little time.
Yeah, a little time in the fact that, alright, so we mentioned this as a family. It's not the whole family.
No, it's just dad and the daughter.
It was a daughter? I heard small child.
It should sounded like a daughter.
Small child, apparently female, and, dad. Small child was being a small child.
Yeah.
I give them much more leeway.
Yeah, perfectly well behaved.
Kids are fucking kids.
Yeah.
They're gonna chat more. They're gonna talk more. They're enjoying the film. I give them much more leeway. Adults should know better. So
sure.
Sorry, that word just wouldn't come out of my mouth.
No, that's fine. I like Dreamlight. I don't know what it means, but I like it.
I give children much more. Maybe don't finish that sentence because I don't know what Dreamlight is, and I don't necessarily want to know that I don't necessarily want to know that I give it to children.
I was spelling it REME light, not REAM light.
You just never know.
Yeah,
it's the internet. I'm just not gonna finish the sentence. I'm gonna move on. But the adults should know better.
Sure.
So when the movie started. It started, and one of the first things they do is they play the classic Spider-Man theme.
Mm-hmm.
They like the TV theme they call back to occasionally. And then this motherfucker behind me, because the dad was right behind me, starts going, Spider-Man, Spider-Man,
which
does whatever a spider can. Stop it! Stop it! It was actually at that point that I turned, did the movie half turn, so I'm still looking at the screen and said, dude,
He did it again later after I moved.
I know.
Because I was going to give that guy that. Because you know what? Hey, you hear that song, you're excited about Spider-Man. You know, they're bringing that stuff back into your heart. You're like, yeah, I loved Spider-Man when I was a kid. Thank you for reminding me of that old show. And I actually went to a showing of the Blues Brothers a couple years ago where, like, it was a small audience and we all just kind of sang along with the movie.
Blues Brothers is an old movie. That's different. That's a community
It
thing.
is. It is a little bit different. And it was a community thing. And it was really cool. So I was like, you know what? This is just the opening. There's not even anything actually going on. It's a logo.
It's just one of those things that I know is going to lead to bad places.
Well, I forget what was said. But they did keep talking through the opening of the film. And I'm like, you know what? Don't piss yourself off. Get a row ahead so you can hear them less easily. I don't mind sitting in the front row of the movie.
The second row, which is what we were in, is as far forward as I can go. If I get to the front row of the movie, I just get nauseous.
That's fine. I respect that. I like the front row of the movie because my head has to do stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, something over there. Cool. It's very interactive and it sucks me in more. But, so I just went to the front row. You know, this guy, I'm not going to let him ruin my experience. And yeah, I can still hear him or his kid every now and then, but it's much quieter. It's much less invasive.
And they do quiet down. They
Yes,
don't
they
ever
do.
stop talking, but they quiet down enough that I can mostly tune them out.
Yeah.
But
That's
it's
all
just
I was
it's
looking
kind
for.
of a rocky beginning. We only gave it this much time because I wanted you to understand. They do eventually quiet down, but it's not they're not in the good feelings column,
No. And, like, it's set me off on a bad foot, but the movie pulled that back pretty quick.
which is hard for a movie to do.
It really is. Man, long, complicated story short. I love seeing movies in the theater when I really want to see a movie and pay attention to it, because that's a lot easier for me to pay attention to the movie in a theater. And if somebody is, like, not a foot behind me going, what's that? What's going on there? It just breaks my immersion so hard that I might as well be at home.
You know what? It wasn't. If he was just confused, I would have. Like, I honestly might have started explaining it. But it's that he was doing. It's that he fucking thought he was funny.
Yeah, I was running commentary.
He was doing his commentary bit. He was fucking trying to riff tracks this movie, trying to score dad points with his kids. And no, motherfucker, this is not. Fuck off. This is not open mic night at the fucking Apollo. Shut up.
Well, it might have been, because if he had kept up loud enough, I was going to go talk to the manager. The guy who runs his theater is a good guy. He gave me a quarter once. Anyhow. I mean, we talk about this because, once you get down to the movie, God, there's a lot to say, but so much of it is gushing. It's like our Guardians of the Galaxy podcast.
We definitely, all right, so this review has been, because we're talking about outside the movie stuff, more negative than we tend to do for movies we like. But that's because, I could literally just say most of the lines from this movie in a hyper nerd voice, and that would be an accurate review of the movie. This was a really fucking good movie.
Yeah. Gosh, I can't even really think of anything I didn't like about it.
Me neither. I loved Ned. He was a show stealer. Like, he was absolutely a great at his goal. Obviously, Tom Holland's an amazing Spider-Man. We already knew that.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
I love that they made being from New York and being, a local boy a real big part of Spider-Man's persona and who he is. I love all the stuff about the school. Something I want to highlight, actually, that the internet has been bitching about is Flash fucking Thompson. Flash Thompson in this adaptation is a smart kid, like Peter. Because in this adaptation, Peter's going to a school for the gifted. So, of course, he's hanging around other smart kids. And also, Flash isn't a dumb jock who is the captain of the football team and is, so stupid you're not sure how he knows how to breathe. And
I was thinking about this too, because, school is not really like that anymore.
No, he doesn't try and beat Peter up, because we're 20 years past the age of zero tolerance policies. Those sorts of bullies in high-end specialty schools, Flash would have gotten kicked out if he was that kind of guy.
Regardless of that, he and Peter are unlikely to ever freaking interact. Even when I was in high school, the only time I ran into people who were making fun of me was gym class and the bus. That's it.
Yeah, because I mean, especially with things being a little more enclosed, because you can just interact with people on social media a lot easier. So
Sure.
if there's no one in your school who you get along with really well, you can just not interact with anyone at your school. And it's just, and especially in big inner city schools with a lot of students, I mean, Peter fucking Parker has no reason to ever interact with the football team, and in this movie he doesn't. I don't even know if their school has one.
Yeah, they're the Tigers.
That's right, they are. They have the Tigers thing. Well, I mean, that's their school mascot. I don't know if it's...
Well, yeah, maybe they don't have a football team.
They might have a basketball team, but they're an inner city New York school. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have one.
But your conclusion is that
Flash is people were bitching like, he's not a bully anymore, he's just a dweeb. No, Flash is absolutely an amazingly shitty bully in this movie.
yeah, like
He's a great heel in this movie.
I don't know how you could watch this movie and come away going, he's not a bully anymore. No, he doesn't stuff Parker in a locker, but I mean, like, he's still a really awful human being at it.
This isn't the 60s. You're not gonna get the vicious, delicious nerd revenge story of Flash trying to throw a punch at Parker for being a dweeb or whatever, and then Peter kicks his ass. It's not Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies anymore, dude. Like, Flash is a great bully because he's a bully. He's the kind of bully that still exists now. He's the fun bully who, like, oh, sorry, I'm just joshing around with you, bro. It's cool, man.
God,
I'm just jokes, man. No, fuck you. You're being an asshole. We both know you're being an asshole. We both know I'm not cool with what's going on here. You're just trying to use me to dunk off me for social points. That's the exact kind of bully that still exists in schools, or at least did 10 years ago when I was in
the internet now.
Yeah, and yeah, he's a fucking troll.
He
Flash
is
is a troll.
Period.
I mean, he just calls Peter Penis Parker. That is his, and that's definitely a troll. He's just like, I guarantee Flash goes to 4chan. He is an internet troll. And thus is a really good character. He's a really good modern adaptation of the character. If people just... Nerds! Damn it!
Right? Calm your tits and enjoy something for once. I like Ned because he's actually a combination of a couple of characters from Miles Morales' Corner of the Universe.
That's cool. Also, got a Miles Morales reference in this movie. Very sick. Under the radar, but very sick.
I loved a lot of the casting in this. And I love that, like, for the first time in watching a Spider-Man movie adaptation. Now, admittedly, we didn't see the second, and the two.
I know what you're gonna say, and I'm gonna bet that it's not gonna be the case for those. But say what you're gonna say, and I'll confirm.
This is the first time Peter Parker has felt poor.
Yeah, no, it's not. In the Amazing Spider-Man, it doesn't feel that way. You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Peter's supposed to be he's supposed to be a poor kid. He's supposed to be a really inner city sort of fucking destitute level poor kid.
Yeah.
And he doesn't quite feel ridiculously poor. He's not cartoon poor.
Well, he's okay. He's above. It's not like
his
they're
family
treading
can
water,
afford to go out, and
yeah,
he can afford to get food out to eat. He's not but I mean, they clearly don't have money for frivolities.
Sure. They live in a really cramped little apartment.
When Peter finally gets a date for the homecoming, because yes, of course, there's a homecoming dance in this. Because if you're gonna name it homecoming, you'd fucking better. I know the joke was he's finally coming home to Marvel, but you gotta do it. You gotta do it. But they don't go and rent a suit. He goes and gets one of Ben's suits.
Yeah, and it's all. His phone gets progressively more and more cracked throughout the movie.
Because he's Spider-Man and his phone keeps getting fucked with.
He doesn't even, bat an eye. He's just like, that's his life. It's good. And, he's in... I was doing some trivia reading because I give a shit about trivia. The school they filmed in was actually one of the worst schools in America. Danger-wise, I guess.
Yeah.
So... visually, they're capturing that element of what a school looks like, especially an inner city school, what they look like. And it's
in a way that's just so hard to do unless you're on location.
Yeah.
Because people who design Hollywood sets, while they're great at their job, there's tiny pieces that you're going to miss.
Yeah, and I think they just did so phenomenally. He looked downtrodden, but he wasn't. And
yeah,
that's...
like he was fucking living his life. Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't... Because, alright, I grew up relatively poor. Not amazingly so, but I grew up relatively poor. You're not sad all the time.
No.
There's not a little man with a small violin constantly playing, and you're constantly just watching the little match girl on loop. You live with it.
Yeah.
It's your fucking life. It's not the end of the world. You adapt.
Even...
I love that Peter does that. I love that he's not fucked about it. He's not constantly like, can't believe we don't need money, which is one of the things that really actually bothers me about the first Spider-Man, the Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Because he's just such a bitch about it. I can't believe you can't buy me a car, Aunt May.
Oh, yeah, God, that
Motherfucker, there is no universe where you thought that was a possibility.
Yeah.
If you guys are as poor as they're showing you, I didn't think I was getting a car. That my family managed to get me a car was a real surprise.
Something else I like is that they established that about his character without talking about money in very early in the first act of the movie, because basically what they make it look like is Tony has pawned Peter off on Happy Hogan, which I was glad to see him make a return.
Yeah. Also, side note, I'm not the hugest fan of her as a person, but I'm really glad Gwyneth Paltrow was back.
Yeah.
That's real. That's near the end of the movie. That is a pretty big spoiler, I guess. But
Eh.
I didn't know it was coming.
Well, I didn't either, but in reading, I understand she got some pretty high billing, so...
So maybe not. Maybe not for
maybe
you.
It wasn't a big deal.
But, like, I'm glad she was back. I liked that character, and I liked how that character makes Tony better.
Yes.
And also, it makes Civil War make more sense, because that happened when they were having a rough patch and they weren't together, and then in Homecoming he's much more well adjusted because Pepper's back.
Yeah. So, but Hogan, it just seems like he's not listening to any of his email or any of his voicemails, any of his texts. He's not responding. But Peter doesn't get down. He will send him text after text after text. He will leave him voicemail message after voicemail message. He's like doing constant status reports, and he's shown doing this for like, 6 months, something like that?
A while, yeah.
And he doesn't let it bring him down. And that's Spidey, man.
And then they call back to it in such a wonderful way, because, like, throughout the movie, like, it does become clear at very crucial points that Tony has been keeping up.
Yeah, like, he drops a lot of things, like, specific references to shit, and that's nice.
Because the only way you would know that is if you put in the time.
Because they're really building him to look like, Red Herring style, this jackass who doesn't care, which is easy to believe because of A, Civil War, and B, comics Tony Stark.
And also, early in the movie, he's in India, so when Peter gets in trouble, Tony bails him out with, a remotely driven suit. And, like, later in the movie, they do a great callback because, Peter's in trouble, Tony bails him out again, and then, they're having a fight about it, and then Peter says, if you really cared, you'd be here. Suit immediately opens up, Tony's inside. It's just such a good moment.
Yeah.
Because Tony is, like, really, like, he's dad mad, in that you could tell he's mad because he's really fucking scared. And he's really upset because the kid he cares a lot about is in danger, and he really wishes that wasn't the case. And it's so well acted because Robert Downey Jr. is fucking amazing. And, like, Peter is a teenager, so he tries to fire back, and Tony says, no, this is where you zip it, the adult is talking. And instead of coming across like an asshole, he comes across like your actual dad would. Where you shut the fuck up because shit is real.
I think it's a good split. I think young people will look at that and be like, man, fuck Tony Stark. And I think we as older people can look at that and go, yeah, good dad moment. I think it rides that line really well. So that depending on the lens you're viewing it from, it's going to be easy for you to see it as something that's more relatable to you.
Yep, and it plays in the movie exactly the way you want. Peter reacts to it in the exact way. Like, a combination of defiant and also, like, genuinely very upset that this relationship is being broken. And they go through some rough shit in this movie. But, like, it's a really good for a lot of reasons. Liz Tyler. That's her last name, Tyler, I believe, right?
No.
I know Liz.
Liz was the only thing she was called at all in the movie.
That probably because the last name would be Toombs if they said anything.
Yeah.
Which I imagine is why I inserted it.
Something else, yeah.
But like fucking Liz does an amazing. She doesn't have a wealth to do really.
Mm-hmm.
She's just sort of the C team love interest that is over there.
Yeah,
and acts as the thing that Peter looks at and the screen goes all fuzzy and there's hearts and shit.
Well, but it works on multiple levels, see, because something else I liked about this movie is that if you switched to another character's perspective, like Michelle would be a great option, suddenly this becomes like... all right, Brain, don't give me a good... Mean Girls, where it's about kids in high school having high school drama, dealing with people, and then going to an academic competition. Will they win?
And then they win!
So, like, and it's played very genuinely, and, like, you can tell from their perspective, they got no fucking clue about Spider-Man.
Also, I like that they show it as all this teenage drama is very important to the teenagers.
Yes!
In the same way that as older people, my brain partially goes, why the fuck you care? Why the fuck you care?
Well, and a lot of them are kind of cool about it and a little more reasonable. It's not a lot of that inserted hot-headedness that people sometimes artificially put on teenagers in films. That's not always artificial. Don't get me wrong. But, like, when people get hot-headed, it feels logical. And these are some reasonable kids. They're smart kids. They go to the smart kid school. So...
Fucking, I just remembered pretty sure this guy's a war criminal now.
Hannibal Buress was fantastic.
Hannibal Buress was fucking great in this movie.
So, it's good shit. And they look like teenagers.
That's so, like, alright, you said this is the first time Peter Parker has felt poor.
Yeah.
All this stuff is building around, this is the first Spider-Man movie where Spider-Man has felt like a teenager.
He does, man. The way they put clothes on him, and the way those clothes fit him, he looks like a 15-year-old. And the dude's like 20-something.
He looks like he's doing an amazing job of acting like a realistic, smart, responsible, but still teenage person whose brain isn't done growing yet. Like, the kids in this movie, they look like teenagers.
Yeah, it's not the Sam Raimi things where we've got 30-year-olds looking
45-year-old, 45-year-old father of two.
I'm Mary Jane. Kiss me, Peter.
The late game MJ insert was good as not Mary Jane. That was a good side dodge. I forget the character's name was Sassy Girl. Michelle. They renamed her because, look, in 2017, no parent names their kid Mary Jane.
I mean, yeah.
Unless those parents are, like, dedicated hippies. Which would be an interesting spin.
Really liked the shoes and didn't think it through.
I mean, the first one would be, I think, an interesting spin. But I like it because I like that character, and that character being the love interest going forward, especially when they've kind of inserted some weird, like, yandere undertones into her.
Yeah, I dug that a lot. I love the background characters and the slightly less background characters because, okay, yeah, we all knew the Vulture was the bad guy of this movie. It was all over the promotional material. Guess who else is there? Two shockers,
which I literally out loudly booed in this movie. I fucking love the Shocker, okay? He's a great comic book villain for a lot of reasons. But I think I actually mentioned on the last podcast.
You did, yeah.
So when they killed the first one, I went, boo! Because I thought that was Herman. Turns out the second guy's Herman, so I officially retract my boo.
The first guy was Montana, who was the Shocker briefly. Montana is well known for using a whip.
Yeah, no, he was the Shocker. I think it was actually Spectacular Spider-Man, a great cartoon series. He was the Shocker in that. So, I mean, that's really good. Good. Then you gave it to Herman. Herman's way better.
And he's a really good Herman.
And he's just enough of a fucking sad sack that it really works.
Yeah, he's enough of a sad sack, and he doesn't want to be a dick.
And that's that's perfect for that character.
But
he doesn't want to. He just wants to rob banks, man. He just wants to make money.
They slide the Tinkerer in there. They slide the Prowler in there very quietly.
And in the background, Felicia Hardy's there, and Gwen Stacy's there, and turns out Michelle Watson, I assume,
Yeah.
is there.
Betty Brant is there. A young Betty Brant, but still.
I didn't notice a Harry Osborn.
No, this is the first Spider-Man movie to not mention the Osborn family and or Oscorp.
Which, I mean, because Harry Osborn is often portrayed as Peter's best friend, that makes sense that he's usually in every adaptation. Fucking, I don't need to see Uncle Ben die again either. Like,
Yeah.
also,
it's
Uncle
basically
Ben wasn't
Christmas.
in this movie.
They didn't even mention him.
Like, yay. I love Uncle Ben. I love his rice, but I do. But at the same time, let that poor old man be dead. Well, that poor, roughly middle-aged man in this adaptation. Also, I love that Hot Aunt May was an absolute thread throughout the whole movie.
And they even kind of made that callback to the, that shitty, awful Spider-Man throwback side series about Aunt May and Peter's parents and Uncle Ben being swingers together.
Look,
Like, that's some dedication to your craft.
there's a lot of references. There's bits, but like everyone hitting on Aunt May. Everyone who Aunt May is in a scene with who isn't actively Peter Parker, at some point kind of hits on Aunt May.
It's so good. The
Also,
jokes are really good.
Peter, for being kind of a nerdlinger around the chick he actually has a crush on, he's still like a well-adjusted kid otherwise, because
Sure.
he's like talking to the local vendor of sandwiches, the sandwich guy who makes best sandwiches ever, you know, New York best sandwiches guy. They're talking, and he's going on, I believe in Spanish, like,
Talking about how hot Aunt May is.
Yeah. Hey, how's your aunt? And then he turns around and talks to someone in Spanish. He's like, she's a very hot Italian woman. And then he turns back around, and Peter, in perfect Spanish, goes, "Hey, how's your daughter?" Just excellent.
It's good stuff. Like, the comedy is so good in this. The action is so good. The drama is good, man. It's been a while since I marked out during a movie. When I was like, oh no, is he gonna make it? Fucking of course he is. It's Spider-Man, dummy. But I was still there, man.
Yeah, I was in. I was in during this movie. I believed in Spider-Man's peril.
Yeah.
And that's so hard to do.
It is so hard to do.
Because, I mean, of fucking course he's gonna be fine, Spider-Man.
But it's the vibe, dude. They took so much of the vibe of Spider-Man, of what made me love Spider-Man. This guy who doesn't have a lot, and he's doing his best, and he wants to be the hero, but like, everything is personal. Spider-Man and Batman being my favorite heroes is, when I was a kid, was kind of interesting, because with Batman, nothing is personal.
It's the mission.
It is the mission. It is about crime. I mean, technically everything's personal because he's avenging his parents every single night, but nobody knows who he is. Nobody
and he's
steps to
very
him.
cold and he's very cut off and professional.
Whereas, Spider-Man, man, fucking everybody finds out who Spider-Man is. And they always come after his. Always. It's never easy.
Which is one of the reasons why you can keep buying that he keeps trying to hide who he is, because every fucking time he doesn't, they come after his shit.
Yeah. And it's so good.
I love, alright, side note, entirely unrelated. At the end of the movie, he gets the offer to turn, to actually become an Avenger, and he turns it down because character development. And it turns out it was a genuine offer, not a weird test or anything, which I liked. But it was the straight up Iron Spider suit.
There was more blue in there than I thought there was going to be.
But it was the straight up
Yeah.
Iron Spider suit, which I loved, and he just straight up turned it down, which I also loved. Right move, Peter.
Yeah,
last
doesn't
time
go
you
well.
went in that suit to a press conference with Tony Stark, didn't go well for you, my dude. Good call.
They also did cool stuff with all of his different webs. They had cool reasons for his shit to do what it does.
Yeah, and the suit being the Tony Stark doesn't like to explain things was both a plot point in this movie. Because there was
several plot points.
Yeah, there was at least a couple times when a lot of the drama in this movie could have been easily averted by Tony Stark going, "Okay, I'm gonna spend 25 seconds to actually explain the situation to you instead of quipping and then leaving."
Well, that would mean character growth for Tony Stark that I don't think he has time for.
He's got some, but he wouldn't explain, and if he had explained, it would have been fine. Peter tells Tony about the problems, hey, I want to take these guys down, and Tony's like, no, we got people for this. Okay, the Avengers? No, not the Avengers. And then Tony doesn't elaborate. He just fucking quips and leaves.
So, like, but that's the beautiful thing, and there is actual like character reflection in there because the whole time he's basically doing what his dad did to him while asking Spider-Man, "I'm being better than my dad, right?" And Spidey's like, "I don't know your dad, dude."
And then like he keeps going like, "Oh God, I sound like my dad." Look, I mean, yeah, what I'm saying is right. Also, but could you just acknowledge that I'm better than my father, real quick? And it's just very blatant and very humorous. But later on in the movie, it turns out that Tony immediately acted on what Peter said. Okay, but if you told him that, this wouldn't be a problem anymore.
Sure.
The sentence, we got people for that. I'll call the FBI. They'll do a sting operation. It's fine. Let it go. These guys are very dangerous. Go back to your shit. The FBI will handle it. Peter might still have been Peter about it.
Sure.
But at the very least, it wouldn't have been partially your fault, Tony.
Well, and I think that's very in character for Tony because the man he's busy. Like, and not just, he's got a very busy schedule, but like that's how he is as a person. He's flippant, he keeps his words short and impressive, and then moves on with his life to the next thing to be short and impressive at.
He's also, like, got real problems with attention.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually shown throughout every Iron Man movie, all the Avengers, that Tony doesn't do well when he doesn't have projects.
Yeah.
When you let Tony be for a while. Also, I love the callback line to Civil War where he said he had some connections at MIT. It's good. It's good.
So, like we said, we could brag about this forever. But I believe you guys are waiting for a payoff, right? So, there is a line late in the movie. There's a lot of great stuff going on, but
and it is in itself in the movie a great line.
Yeah,
there's this running theme that Ned wants to help Peter out. He wants to be Peter's guy in the chair is the term they use. He wants to be Oracle for Peter. He wants to be the guy he wants to be Wade from Kim Possible. He wants to be the guy who's in the chair.
Making references I don't understand. Carry on.
Helping out, telling, if you're in a building and you need to know where something is, I could tell you where to go because I could download the plans for the building. And then he gets to do shit like that later in the movie. And he's in the fucking school library.
So when teacher comes in and is like, "Hey man, you're supposed to be here to dance. What the hell are you doing?" Because
and he can't tell him helping Spider-Man to solve crimes. So
he goes looking at porn. Gets a big laugh from the audience, right? And after the laugh subsides.
Like it was itself a movie. Immediately after the laughter dies entirely, the theater is silent, and there's no dialogue going on in the movie. It's like an action transition scene. The little child, the girl you said, apparently turns to her parent, the douche who's been fucking talking the whole movie, and goes, "What's porn mean?" And the whole audience just loses their shit.
The guy handles it well. He just goes, "Haha, thanks, Spider-Man," and then hangs his head. That's good. He got points in my book from that. But it was also a delightful. I didn't have to do anything. Karma handled this. You brought you and your chatty family to this movie on a Saturday night, made my experience a little worse, but now your experience is a little worse, so we both leave happy.
Oh, it was just if it had been written
if it had been written, it would have been trite.
Yeah.
That would have been the stupidest thing ever. Because
it would have, if this had been a scene where the main characters go to a movie and there's a chatty asshole and his kid behind them, and then lol porn becomes a punchline, I would have pointed at the screen and gone, the little kid's gonna ask what porn is. And then they would have done it, and I would have gone, I mean, goddamn, guys. But no, IRL right in front of us.
I as much as I do love this movie, as much as I don't really know what flaws it has, after first viewing, and we're a day out from it. It's not
perfect,
no,
I'm sure.
Not, yeah.
But, they got me. They got me with the magic trick, man. I couldn't tell you what flaws this movie has. I was on the ride. I was having a great time. Go see this movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's in my top 20 or anything.
I'd have to watch it again. I don't think it'll end up there.
No. But
I also, just side note, I fucking love the Vulture in this movie.
Oh my god. I love when he's arguing with his team and he's got the helmet off after he comes back from trying to drown Spider-Man. And his hair's doing the Vulture thing, and he's got those wild beady eyes and the ruff on his little bomber jacket. You see all the artistic inspiration that they modernized to create this new Vulture.
And I love, all right, so listener, if you listen to the podcast regularly, man does right by his is one of my favorite tropes. So at the end, Adrian Toomes is just trying to do right by his. And fucking Spider-Man keeps getting in the way.
Time and time again. But stay for the credits. Stay after the credits. Stay after all of the credits.
Because, like, in the movie, he gives Spider-Man an out. He's like, because at one point Spider-Man saves Liz's life because she's the love interest. He's Spider-Man. Of fucking course he does.
Yeah. That's how Act 2 ends.
Yeah. And then, so he looks at him, he's like, got a gun out, and he's talking to Peter, like, real serious, because they're in a private setting, semi-private. He pulled out a gun in a high school driveway. Not sure that was the smartest move on Adrian's part.
And it's inner city.
Yeah, fair enough. And he was giving the dad talk, so I'm sure the chaperone was like, oh, gun, good move for the dad talk.
Yeah.
Solid, you gotta go heavy. But, like, he's like, you saved my daughter, so you get this chance. Walk away. And, like, it's very cool, very Godfather, and it was super, super in character.
It was
for this guy who didn't start life as a bad guy.
It's so, like, douchey, too. Like, you can tell the character Michael Keaton is playing thinks he's being really cool.
Yeah, and also, like, thinks he's being really generous and really cool. Because at the end, he's like, no, I just saved your life.
Yeah.
So what do you do? And he makes Peter thank him, which is just such a fucking slimy asshole move. Because he's not a good guy now, but he didn't start out as a bad guy either. But you can tell by the time he's the villain of the movie, like, he is off his rocker. Because he just straight up murders the first Shocker, and he's like, I thought that was the anti-gravity gun. Oh. And, like, he just moves on from just vaporizing this motherfucker.
I'm sure he handled his shit off screen, you know. It seemed like there was some development there, and part of why he cracked more and more, because he kind of had it together. Like, he was willing to do what needed to be done to steal what he needed to steal, but he wanted to run a legit operation. He had a lot of Captain Cold in him in that way.
Yeah, he didn't want to. He just doesn't want undue messing.
It was fucking Montana that was like, yeah, let's fuck shit up, and he's like,
and he's like, no, don't fuck shit up. You're fired. And he's like, well, I'm gonna go rat to your wife. Really wish you hadn't said that, Montana.
Well, so yeah, he shoots him with the intent to just, you know, fuck him up and threaten him or whatever.
You shoot him with the anti-gravity thing and scare him, like, now I got all these weapons and you're gonna rat me out? Like, you think the man, the richest man on earth goes out at night and beats up criminals, and your idea is to blackmail this person? Good luck.
So, but then he doesn't. He kills him, and like after that point in the movie, he clearly becomes more unhinged.
Yeah, he clearly becomes worse.
But
and like you can tell his crew notices it too, because they all react like, "Oh fuck, is that where we're at now? Is that what we're doing?"
Yeah, and it's like there's this whole thing where like, man, I want out. You know, the second Shocker, the guy who ends up being Herman, is he's like, I want out. I'm not doing this anymore. You know, everybody gets uncomfortable. They treat it really naturally, and I feel like that's so important.
Mm-hmm. But like,
and it's not
stay for the mid, because it's a Marvel movie. You're gonna, but you were gonna talk about man does right by his.
Yes, it's just no. I'm not even gonna spoil that, guys. Just stay. It's
does right by his.
It's good.
Just solid work. I hope Michael Keaton comes back. I hope the Vulture is part of the Sinister Six in Spider-Man 2.
I hope he's part of the Sinister Six in Spider-Man 3. I want Spider-Man 2 to be something else.
Yeah, like, I love the Sinister Six. So, and they've never done it. So,
well, they were planning to for Amazing Spider-Man 3, but
I'm glad they didn't. There, it would have sucked
because they all would have been Transformers.
Look, I love Paul Giamatti. I love Paul Giamatti, but no, stop.
Or if they had like beefed him
unless
up
he
or
is
something.
better than that.
Yeah, that was bad. There's a bunch of cool ass Spider-Man villains you could look into for the sequel to this film, and I mean, we're not going to get it for a while.
Don't do the Jackal. Personal request.
I'm thinking Kraven.
Ooh, like a nice, solid Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah, like he's and this is exactly the way to do it. After the Spider-Man's involvement in the Infinity War stuff, Kraven finds out about him, and he's like, "This is the most dangerous game. Fuck giant animals. I want to hunt superheroes. I'm going to start with that one."
And he just starts with Spider-Man because he knows where Spider-Man is. You don't know where Captain America is. Captain America's a war criminal. You don't know where, you know where Iron Man is, but Iron Man's not dangerous. He's just a man in a tin can. Like, Kraven wouldn't get any joy out of killing Tony Stark. There's no hunt there.
Yeah. Whereas
find man outside his tin can kill. No, there's no There's no challenge.
There's no glory of battle. Do Craven and make it like really dark.
I'd do Tombstone personally.
Tombstone would be good too. Craven and Tombstone. Look, this movie had 3, 4 villains in it.
I'd do Tombstone. I love that they kind of worked in, like, you mentioned that Vincent D'Onofrio wants to be in a Spider-Man movie. He wants to be the Kingpin in a Spider-Man movie.
Oh, man, that'd be good.
That'd be good. It'd also be a great way to tie in the Marvel series. Part of my brain's going to be like, wonder what Spider-Man's doing during the Defenders. Wonder what Peter's up to.
He's not in that, 5-foot space that is Hell's Kitchen.
You know what? I would love it if he just, and there was a line in the movie, it was like maybe Happy's like, just, stay on the ground. Be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Not Hell's Kitchen. Stay out of Hell's Kitchen.
Good God, kid, in Harlem. Stay out of Hell's Kitchen in Harlem. Everything else, that's yours. But, yeah, so this is one of the longer podcasts we've done in a while because we liked the film and we had a stupid story to tell you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Again, go see the movie. Everything's better when nerds talk about it.
Fuck it, let's get hardcore! Blood, pain, we're all insane. Suffer head trauma, destroy